Welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Mare, and we're breaking down the world of pro wrestling.
From the eyes of a smart fan.
And a casual fan, and everyone in between.
Whether you're a lifelong fan
or just getting into it,
you've got a ringside seat with us. Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling fans, and the sickos who think spending an entire week studying Ring of Honor history is a perfectly normal hobby, welcome to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast.
This week we're putting on our black and red Ring of Honor glasses because it's all about honor. If you've ever wondered where today's wrestling style really came from, buckle up. We're heading back to where so many of the industry's biggest stars earned their stripes.
We're cracking open the time capsule and revisiting the very first Death Before Dishonor from 2003, the event that helped establish one of Ring of Honor's signature traditions. Before streaming, before social media clips spoiled everything, this was the kind of show people traded DVDs just to experience.
Then we jump ahead to 2017 when Ring of Honor delivered one of those I can't believe we're actually seeing this moments. Minoru Suzuki made his first U.S. wrestling appearance in 25 years, and the atmosphere inside the arena was absolutely electric. We'll talk about why that night meant so much, how it changed the perception of Ring of Honor, and why fans still bring it up nearly a decade later.
And once we've paid our respects to two landmark events, we'll turn our attention to Philadelphia as we preview this Friday's Death Before Dishonor. We'll break down every announced match, the championship implications, the stories to watch, and the moments that could have everyone talking once the final bell rings.
Whether you've been watching Ring of Honor since the early 2000s or you're discovering it through today's roster, we've got something for you. Think of this as your crash course in why the words Death Before Dishonor carry so much weight in professional wrestling.
So settle into your favorite chair and let's celebrate one of wrestling's most respected traditions.
This is the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast. Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 1 was a special event produced by Ring of Honor which took place on July 19, 2003 at the Rexplex in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's the inaugural edition of the Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor event series. The reported attendance for the event was a whopping 1,200 fans. Wow.
At the time, this was Ring of Honor's biggest show ever. So nothing. Think about it. It's 2003. WCW closed. ECW closed. All that was left was WWE. And for an independent company that they had only done a handful of shows at this time. So they weren't, the Ring of Honor that we, grew to love and that we'll talk about a little bit later. This was a super independent show. So 1,200 people. That's a lot in 2003.
So the show kicks off with the singles match. Low Key defeats Deranged in 6 minutes and 51 seconds.
So Low Key was the heart, the soul of independent wrestling at this time. He was the guy everybody knew. And he would go on to have huge success all over the independents, and he did eventually have a small run in WWE that culminated in him winning NXT when it was a reality show and not, minor league, grooming company for WWE that it is now. And he won that because, not because the company was behind him, because it was a fan voting, similar to like American Idol at the time.
Yeah.
And he won, and his, reward for winning was a singles match on a pay-per-view against Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental title. And it was a spectacular match, but he was gone not long after that. And he's done some independents, but, he was a special talent. And, seeing him here, you could see why. He was awesome.
Then we had Matt Striker versus Jimmy Rave. Matt Striker picks up the win here. This was 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Shorter matches so far.
Yeah, this was, early Ring of Honor, so you got to see some names that you would see later in the future. Jimmy Rave became a huge staple for Ring of Honor, joining the Embassy with Prince Nana. If you remember, the blue and yellow coat that Swerve wore out that Ricochet stole from him and Prince Nana, that was originally made for Jimmy Rave and
Okay.
when he was part of the embassy. And, some of these guys went on to become like really big names, we'll see here.
We had a weapons 8-man tag team match. The Texas Wrestling Academy, so Don Juan, Fast Eddie, Hot Stuff Hernandez, and Rudy Boy Gonzalez pick up the win against the Carnage Crew, which was DeVito, Just Incredible, Locke, and Masada. This match went for 12 minutes and 5 seconds.
So yeah, you got to see some, old ECW people, which was very heavy on the influence of Ring of Honor in the beginning. Just Incredible was still able to go at this time. DeVito was there. Hot Stuff Hernandez would go on to huge success in TNA as part of the
Yeah.
tag team LAX with Homicide.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
he had a good run there, but you got to see a little bit of everything. They still had a lot of ECW influence because if you think 2003, that ECW was still huge at this time. So you got to see people like that, and we'll talk about some more characters a little bit later. But you know, this was Ring of Honor. It was a little bit of ECW, a lot of traditional wrestling, and then a lot of the style we see on AEW today, started from a company like this.
Yeah, of the people on here, the name that I really recognize is Just Incredible. I feel like he's been around for a long time. Obviously, this was 2003. I don't really recognize the other names on this, but I mean, he's still doing stuff now, right?
Yeah, we just saw him at the Joey Janela show. He came out.
Right.
He's clean. He's sober now. He was actually an honorary Click member. So he was big in WWE. If you remember the name Aldo Montoya, that was his gimmick in WWE, and he was down with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Waltman, you know, and he ran in that crew, and then he went to ECW and had huge success with Dawn Marie and Lance Storm, and had some of his best matches ever there.
The next one is a tag team match. The Purist, which is John Walters and Tony Mamaluke, defeat the Outcast Killers, so Diablo Santiago and Omen Tortuga. This match went for 9 minutes and 31 seconds.
Yeah, Tony Mamaluke, he was a member of the FBI, the Full-Blooded Italians, with
Okay.
Nunzio Little Guido. And again, he's someone that everybody knew from ECW and, would have success in early Ring of Honor. And his partner, John Walters, he would go on to become a pure champion, battling Nigel McGuinness, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson. So, these were two guys that they pushed heavily and they were both really good wrestlers. The thing that stood out with rewatching this show is just in every match, regardless of it being an independent, there's quality wrestlers. And yes, some of them were very young, even at the top of the card. Some of the
Yeah.
guys we're going to talk about here, they haven't hit their prime yet, and they're, really good. And the wrestling in here was amazing. The environment, in the arena, this place was going nuts for every single match. And it was a total like hardcore wrestling fan, event. When I was watching this, I was thinking back like, man, 17-year-old me, had I known about stuff like this, because this was where my wrestling fandom dipped its most in my life because I had lost my love ECW, and that's what
Yeah.
really kept me like going in my high school years because it was so different. I wasn't a fan. I mean, I liked Austin and Rock, but it wasn't what I wanted. ECW was what appealed to me, and
Yeah.
that counterculture, the rock music, the gangster rap, and the athleticism and the wrestling. That
Yeah.
was what was different. And when I really got deep into wrestling again, it was Ring of Honor that really brought me back in because back when Netflix had where you could get DVDs in the mail. I saw these wrestling compilations and I was like, oh, I know these guys. I know Matt Hardy. I know CM Punk. So let me see them. And that's where I discovered Danielson and his match with Lance Storm, Generico,
Yeah.
Dean. And then once I found it, it was like, now I have to seek this out. Now I have to find more. And, Ring of Honor was a company I didn't mind buying their DVDs. It
Yeah.
was awesome because there wasn't a streaming network, so every so often they would run these specials where you could get like 5 of their DVDs for like $20. And it was like, oh, this is great. I can get like 5 shows for $20. Like, why not?
$4 a piece.
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, whenever I think of Ring of Honor, especially back in the early days, like it's more closely aligned with the kind of wrestling that I enjoy, which is like more action packed. And to me, like I don't think there's as much storyline or gimmicky stuff as there is in like WWE. Like that's why I like AEW. It's more action packed, more hard hitting. Just overall a better quality product, and Ring of Honor reminds me of that. The next match is a singles match. Tom Carter picks up the win against Doug Williams. Those are not wrestling names at all. That's just like your average Joe names.
Well, Doug Williams is a decorated British wrestler, and he would go on to be a very well-known name in the independent and even TNA circuit. And
Yeah.
he formed a great tag team with someone that you do know and recognize, Mr. Nick Aldis. In
Wow.
TNA, they were known as the British Invasion when
Okay.
Nick Aldis went by the name of Magnus. So, he went on to be very successful. He's very skilled wrestler, great
Yeah.
technical expertise, and you could see as you get further down the card, the match times are going up heavily because this
Yeah.
is where you get into like the big time wrestling that you weren't seeing on normal shows and normal pay-per-views all the time.
So then we had a number one contenders trophy four-corner survival match. We had BJ Whitmer picking up the win against Colt Cabana. Boom, boom. Colt Cabana. Love him. Dan Moff with Allison Danger and Homicide with Julia Smokes. This match went for 13 minutes and 45 seconds. This was like a little baby Colt Cabana, like back when him and CM Punk were still cool.
Yeah, this was early Colt Cabana when he was in the Second City Saints with CM Punk. Dan Moff, still a regular on independents all over the Northeast.
Yeah,
You can see him all over the place. Homicide, huge name in both Ring of Honor, TNA, NWA, well known. And BJ Whitmer, he was actually working backstage for AEW and Ring of Honor in his later years before he got embroiled in some domestic issues. And now he's out of pro wrestling. And Colt Cabana, you have, still working with AEW, still doing independence every once in a while. And Allison Danger, she is the sister of one of our favorite individuals, Mr. Steve Carino. So Allison, she's still working. She's still working backstage for companies. She was with WWE for a while, and this was prime Ring of Honor.
yeah,
And you had 4 of the big names here. Dan Moff was a part of the faction with Christopher Daniels, who, if you watch this show, he had little promo segments all throughout the show, and he was working for New Japan at the time as well.
yeah,
So he was all over, and all of these guys had a huge impact in Ring of Honor in the coming years. Even Allison Danger, doing once they finally got into female wrestling, she was heavily involved, and that's all these people are talented. And out of the group, obviously, my favorite was Colt Cabana. I loved everything he did. His
yeah,
impact on pro wrestling and independent wrestling is huge. I don't think, you know, a lot of people would have podcasts, us included, if it wasn't for somebody like Colt Cabana.
yeah. We loved his podcast.
Yeah, he was like the podfather of pro wrestling.
Hmm.
He was one of the first ones that I ever subscribed to. I look forward to all those interviews. I mean, the stories that you heard on his episodes, even like the wrestlers that I discovered, and you know he was interviewing everybody. You know, I always enjoyed, my favorites were either the Luke Gallows podcast or the Truth Martini podcast.
Yes, that one was great.
And he also got deep on a lot of his podcasts too, talking about depression with Pac, and getting into, Kevin Steen's insecurities and the drama with Jim Cornette and everything. I mean, it was
Yeah.
awesome. And, you know, all these guys had a huge impact on pro wrestling.
Yeah, I love the Colt Cabana podcast. That's probably the first podcast I ever listened to was Colt Cabana, and that's because you introduced me to it. And the Truth Martini one, the CM Punk one, that one was like, I just remember it was like when I was newer to wrestling and, just getting to know who CM Punk was. And so, like, for me listening to that, I was like, oh my God.
I remember when that CM Punk podcast dropped in the middle of the night with
Uh-huh.
no publicity, no nothing. I got an alert on Twitter at the time, and it was like, "What? We're gonna hear from CM Punk?" And I remember it was like 3 in the morning, and I woke up and threw on headphones and started listening. And
Yeah.
as he's telling the stories, I'm watching the matches that he's talking about, and
Yeah.
it was a huge deal. And it's he's one of the originators.
Yeah. Then we had a scramble 8-man tag team match. Special K, which is Angel Dust, Dixie, Hydro, and Mikey Whipwreck, defeat the Backseat Boys, Johnny Cashmere, Trent Acid, and the SAT, which is Joel Maximo and Jose Maximo. This was only 8 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, so Mikey Whipwreck, another huge ECW original, used to be a tag team partner of Cactus Jack, won the tag titles, beat Steve Austin and the Sandman in a triple threat match for the
Yeah.
ECW title. So he carried a lot of weight. And Trent Acid at the time was pegged as one of the next guys, one of the best
Yeah.
up and coming guys that never came to fruition. But he was one of the guys that was being looked at as, oh, this guy's he's a top guy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Then we had a three-way dance. Jeff Hardy defeats Joey Matthews and Crazy K. This was 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Jeff Hardy, this was exciting to see him. Um, I think I saw probably half of this show, and so of course when I saw Jeff Hardy, I was like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, this crowd absolutely rejected Jeff Hardy.
Did they?
They they hated him. This was coming off of him just recently getting fired from WWE, and Crazy K was one of his proteges. Joey Matthews, everybody would know, would go on to team with John Morrison,
Yeah,
uh, and they were Eminem. So Matthews and Morrison. They had Melina, tag team champions. They did a lot, but this crowd, if you go back and watch this is on YouTube, Ring of Honor. They must have been reading our minds, knowing we were gonna do a podcast on this. So they recently uploaded it on their YouTube channel, so you can watch this show for free. Definitely check out this show. Jeff Hardy getting booed out of the building, the fans chanting, "You got fired." He's flipping off the fans in his entrance.
yeah.
He wore the Willow mask for the first half of the match, then took it off, and you could hear like the 15 girls in the audience going crazy. And every time he did anything, he got booed. Anytime anybody beat him up, they got cheered. I mean, it was wild. This crowd was, for only having 1,200 people, you thought there was like 5,000 people in there, and they
Yeah.
all hated Jeff Hardy.
Then we had a dog collar match. CM Punk picks up the win against Raven. This match went for 18 minutes and 43 seconds.
This was super straight edge CM Punk. This is
Yeah,
when he really started to, build his legacy here, and he was the man here. And he was working Ring of Honor. He was a trainer here at the time, and having these matches with Raven, who could still go at this time. I mean, they had a feud. They previewed it. His promos leading up to this with Danger and Cabana. I mean, this is the CM Punk I fell in love with, you
Yeah,
know, coming out to, AFI. I mean, it was awesome. I when I look at this CM Punk, it's like, man, that was my guy. And then I watch him on Friday nights and I'm like, that is not my guy.
that is not the guy we know and love.
Yeah. And it's it's awesome to look back and see this and see young Punk. A lot less tattoos, a lot more energy, a lot more hunger for the business, and not somebody that was defeated at this time. And, it
Yeah.
makes you appreciate how awesome of a wrestler he is.
Then we had a Ring of Honor tag team title match. AJ Styles and the Amazing Red with Alexis Lorray pick up the win against the Briscoes, Jay and Mark Briscoe, 14 minutes and 29 seconds. These guys were so young here, all of them, and to see Jay and Mark together.
And you probably didn't even pick up who Alexis Lorray is.
Now, is she related to Candice LeRae?
Nope, but she is married to Nick Aldis.
Oh, Mickey James. That's fun.
Yes. So, I mean, all Hall of Famers, all amazing people involved in this match. This was my favorite match of the night. I mean, AJ Styles in Ring of Honor was awesome. I mean, he was the guy. Everybody knew he was going to be something special. Paul Heyman even said the next version of ECW was going to be featured around AJ Styles, CM Punk, and the Amazing Red. That was the next generation of professional wrestling. And seeing AJ and Red team up together, they would go on to battle each other in TNA. And the Briscoes, what can you say about the Briscoes? They were on the very first Ring of Honor show. I mean, Mark's still going strong. If anybody is the description of Ring of Honor, it's the Briscoe brothers.
Absolutely. They were
You
that's how I met them was in Ring of Honor. They're definitely like a Ring of Honor staple.
I mean, they've had matches with everybody. They've had matches with each other. On the very first Ring of Honor show, it was Mark versus Jay, and
Yeah,
then they would go on to be tag team and a super successful tag team. And they were awesome. This was an awesome match. I mean, your favorite moves from wrestling today were copied from guys like the Amazing Red, AJ Styles.
yeah,
The Briscoes doing the Doomsday device was awesome. I loved Jay Briscoe. I'm glad he got his world title run. He got some shine in New Japan. I wish he would have gotten that shine in AEW because, man, as awesome as Mark Briscoe and MJF were, imagine Jay Briscoe and MJF, Jay Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. I mean, those matches would have been awesome. Jay Briscoe and John Moxley would have been an awesome match, awesome promos,
yeah,
and it's a shame we didn't get that. And it's not that traditional, like, man, we're going to see Jay Briscoe on Dark Side of the Ring. He was an awesome guy. He was, you know, the best of the best, and we lost him way too soon.
yeah, definitely. Then the main event is a Ring of Honor World Title match. My guy Samoa Joe picks up the win against Paul London. This went for 14 minutes and 13 seconds. Like seeing Samoa Joe back then, he looks so different than he does now. I mean he still wears kind of the same shorts, like the same style, the two-tone. But then, he had that big um bead necklace, around his neck. He was young. He gave off he's Samoan, so he gives off Samoan vibes, but just totally, totally different from the Samoa Joe we see now.
Yeah, I mean the early staples of Ring of Honor, it was Samoa Joe and CM Punk.
Yeah,
Those were the guys that really put this company on the map. And Joe he was always the man. And Paul London, he was a staple of the independents. He would go on to be tag team champion in WWE with Brian Kendrick, having success all over the world. You know, he was huge in Lucha Underground. You know, he he's just awesome. And this was a great, great main event match. And Samoa Joe would go on to have so many great Ring of Honor matches, the
yeah,
Kobayashi match, the Morishima matches, the Danielson matches. I remember watching Samoa Joe and Danielson in a cage,
Yeah.
and Danielson was going out of the cage. Joe choked him out and just dropped him. And that's how he escaped the cage and just fell from the top of the cage to the floor to
Yeah.
the outside. I mean, yeah, Samoa Joe was awesome. And, this was an awesome show. Real early Ring of Honor, super independent, but, everything grew from this.
Right, now we're jumping ahead to 2017 for what many fans still consider one of the most unforgettable nights in the modern Ring of Honor history. Death Before Dishonor 15 came to us from Sam's Town Live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and by this point, Ring of Honor had evolved from an underground favorite into a global destination. Thanks to its partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, dream matches that once felt impossible were suddenly becoming a reality at this time. But there was one moment that overshadowed everything else. For the first time in 25 years, one of the most feared and respected competitors in all of professional wrestling stepped back into the United States ring. Minoru Suzuki wasn't just making an appearance, he was making a statement. His arrival wasn't treated like a surprise guest or a special attraction. It felt like a living legend had walked through the curtain, and the atmosphere inside the building instantly changed. This show became another defining chapter in Ring of Honor's legacy, proving once again that Ring of Honor could deliver moments that wrestling fans would be talking about for years. So, for the first time in 24 years, Minoru Suzuki stepped into a ring in the United States.
Yeah, 25 years.
Yeah. How old is that freaking guy? He's still wrestling.
Yep. He's still going strong. He's, at this point, you know, he was at the top of his powers for being like one of the scariest guys ever because he
He still
battled.
terrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy that, made Ken Shamrock submit, before UFC. And, he had the most vicious chops and he was a guy that, could really hurt you, even like you said, to this day.
Yeah. I mean, him and the Stone Pitbull guy, that guy doesn't look as tough anymore. What's his name?
Tomohiro Ishii.
Tomohiro Ishii, yeah. Him and Suzuki for a while there were like the most intimidating guys to me, but I don't think Big Tom is the same effect anymore. But I mean, he's getting older now, so. But I love Suzuki, so awesome. Then we had a Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Title #1 contendership match. We had Bully Ray and the Briscoes picking up a win against the Kingdom, which this was Matt Taven, TK O'Ryan, and Vinny Marsalia. This went for 13 minutes. It was crazy to see Bully Ray. I mean, I think I watched regularly at this time Ring of Honor because we were together at this point, so we were watching a lot of Ring of Honor, and it was really hot at this time. Um, and It was a great match. I loved this match. It was really fun to watch, lots of action. I recognized most of the guys, and so I was totally into it. But were your thoughts? What's the history and stuff on this match?
Yeah, so starting with the Kingdom, this was the new kingdom that Taven built. Uh, Adam Cole had defected to the Bullet Club. Mike Bennett had left and gone to TNA at this point. So he was building a kingdom of his own. And this would set up Matt Taven's big, you know, win at Madison Square Garden, where he would become world champion in a couple of years. But Bully Ray, he had just come into the company not too long ago, and him and the Briscoes instantly formed a pairing, and they were great together. They fit in perfectly, old school, new school with Bully and the Briscoes, and you know, you would see what would happen later in the show.
Yeah. Then we had a singles match. Marty Skrull picked up the win against Chucky T. This was 12 minutes and 10 seconds. Marty's Girl was a huge deal back here at this time. I mean, he's obviously kind of canceled sort of right now, but I mean, he was a phenomenal wrestler. We loved his matches. We loved his gimmick. He would do the thing where he'd be like, ah, and then he'd crack the fingers and like,
hmm
we loved Marty Skrull. I mean, it was a great
I
match.
I remember when, because I started following Marty Skrull a little bit before he came to Ring of Honor, and I found him, doing independence
Yeah,
and in New Japan, and I was like, this guy he's different. Like,
yeah,
he's like a heel Zack Sabre Jr. that had a character,
yeah,
and I enjoyed him. And this was pre Marty joining the Bullet Club, I believe, or he might have been in the Bullet Club at this point. But
yeah.
when Marty joined, I mean, that was a big deal, and we loved him on Being the Elite.
Yeah, he was such a staple of being the elite. Like he was so funny. And then didn't he have like a thing with Flip Wilson there towards like the end of his time in being the elite?
Flip Gordon, yeah,
Yeah, him and oh yeah, Flip Gordon. Yeah.
Marty and Flip travel the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was the best back then.
Yeah, and Chucky T, a PWG staple, and
Best boy.
someone who would go on to huge success in AEW and still works there backstage. And the Kentucky Gentleman, we talked about him on our PWG episode, and here he is in Ring of Honor. And really underrated, very talented. Even on commentary, he was entertaining.
Yeah, totally. Then we had a Las Vegas street fight. Guys, hear me out. I loved Damian Priest when he was Punishment Martinez. He was big, he was awkward, he was the best. I mean, his pants didn't even fit him right in this match. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. He picks up the win against Jay White in 13 minutes and 55 seconds. And I think the reason why I love Punishment Martinez so much back then is because he carried himself like a big baby birdie or something, or like he just didn't know how to work with his body at the time, it felt like, but he was still a great wrestler. I don't know. I just love him as Punishment Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys would go on to become world champions.
Yep,
Punishment Martinez, Damian Priest, as you mentioned, became world heavyweight champion at WrestleMania, and
yep,
Jay White would go on to become multiple time New Japan IWGP heavyweight champion, having success in AEW. He's having his first kid now, so congratulations to him.
yep,
And Damian Priest, tag team champion on SmackDown. So
yep,
both these guys went on to huge success here, and again, starting out in Ring of Honor. All these guys are in the companies that you love and watch on a weekly basis now. Yeah, Jay White was on his excursion. So back in the day, New Japan would send you out for excursions to get experience, doing things elsewhere, and they still do it today. And, let these guys get experience. Jay White, he was here in America working for Ring of Honor. Hiromu, he went to Mexico, just like Naito did. And, you have these guys getting this experience, and it's awesome to
yeah.
see.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see that how different Jay White is. Like he's evolved like so much in the last 9 years from that time frame, and even like his physique is, wildly different now. He's leaner, he's more toned, and just to see where he was to where he is now, like he's a total badass, and back then he was great, but now he's just, so much better. And so it was a really fun throwback to see him. Really 9 years isn't that long, but 2017 does feel like forever ago.
Yeah.
Then we had the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Title match. We had the Bullet Club, so Hangman Adam Page, Matt and Nick Jackson pick up the win against Bully Ray and the Briscoes. This match went for 5 minutes. Again, Bully Ray with the Briscoes. I guess I didn't remember him being with the Briscoes so much, but
This is where the partnership ended because Jay turned on Bully after Hangman came out, and he was, he had his hands taped and his mouth taped,
yeah,
and someone had kidnapped him, and they were doing a whole "Where's Hangman?" you
yeah,
know search party, and they even had find him posters handed out to the arena, and it was awesome to see young Hangman here,
yeah,
and baby Young Bucks and all these guys working double duty. The
Yeah.
Briscoes worked double duty. The Bucks had to work double duty, as we'll be talking about them here more. But this was awesome. You got to see, what Hangman Page could really do, and what everybody thought he could eventually develop and into what you see on a weekly basis now.
All right. Then we had a Ring of Honor World Television title match. Kenny King picks up the win against Marty McFly himself, Kushida. This match went for 16 minutes and 40 seconds. I loved Kushida. Loved him. Loved his gimmick. He was the cutest little guy. I mean, this would be a huge win for Kenny King, I would think, but it was good to see Kushida again. I loved him back then.
In the words of Arn Anderson, he was a glorified dick dancer.
Marty McFly was?
No, Kenny
Kushida?
King. Kenny
Oh,
King was a
see?
former Chippendale, and he was on The Bachelor.
Oh,
So he has a history with Ring of Honor. He did them a little dirty. He
I
won.
totally thought you were gonna say he has a history with dick dancing. I was like,
Oh, he does.
okay.
He was a Chippendale.
I know you said it, but I thought that's where
Yeah.
you're going, like you were gonna elaborate. But
No,
anyways.
he was a Chippendale. I mean, not much more to elaborate than that. Kenny King. He did Ring of Honor dirty previously. He had won the tag titles as part of the All Night Express with Rhett Titus. The
Uh-huh.
night after they won the titles, he left the company and jumped ship to TNA. And I feel that was the worst decision he ever made. He partnered up with MVP and oh, he answered?
Never miss a week. Major WF Pod has been going strong for 9 years.
That's right. Shout out Matt Cardona. Thanks for the advice.
We're geeking out over here. I'm sorry for all the things I said if you listen to the podcast. Okay.
This collection is because of you during COVID.
There's totes and totes too in the attic of wrestlers. So thanks,
Yeah.
Matt Cardona.
Yeah, but I feel Kenny King didn't benefit from jumping ship. He would have been better suited to stay in Ring of Honor, been a staple there, and he was a staple for a while. And this was a huge win for him. He's from Las Vegas, so he got to win the title in front of his family and everything. And Kushida was a major deal at this time. He was the
Yeah,
IWGP Junior Champion.
yeah. He was huge. He was a big deal, definitely. Then we had a last man standing match. Silas Young defeats Jay Lethal in 21 minutes. I loved Silas Young, but I loved Jay Lethal even more. Like, I was totally into Jay Lethal. He was my favorite. I love the lethal injection. I love his impressions. Like, he does the best Macho Man, the best Ric Flair. Like, he was also on Being in the Elite. I don't know if it was at this time or not, but I loved that they had the gimmick where like if they tapped his shoulder, he was Macho Man until you tapped him again. That was my
Yeah.
favorite. I love Jay Lethal.
Yeah, that was going into All In, which we'll certainly do a review of that show at some point. Uh, but this match was awesome. Silas Young, the last real man, and they had an awesome last man standing match. And they were given time, and they went all out. And Silas Young, they were building him to be something. And Jay Lethal, former Ring of Honor World Champion, TV champion, protege of Samoa Joe. He was a big deal and still going strong on AEW. He'll probably be at All In, part of that trios match.
Yeah. So where is Silas Young now? He hasn't been around since the start of AEW.
Yeah, he's done some AEW stuff. He was on Dynamite, done some dark stuff.
He was with
He's
the bunny, right?
yeah,
No, that he
no,
was?
no, no, he wasn't with the Bunny. That was Butcher
Okay.
and the Blade.
Wrong mustache, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he just did some, random appearances, but yeah, he's not there full time or anything.
Yeah. Then we had the Ring of Honor World Tag Team title match. The Motor City Machine Guns pick up the win against the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, in 14 minutes and 10 seconds. This was a title change for them. Um, I'm sure I saw the match. I just can't recall now, but it had to be good. The Young Bucks are never bad.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, this was in 2017, and what do you know? This is probably something we're going to see, at some point, either at the end of 2026 or in 2027. The Machine Guns just got signed to AEW, just debuted a few weeks ago, and they've been having awesome matches with the Young Bucks as long as they've been wrestling each other, whether it's TNA, PWG, ROH, New Japan. I mean, they're always going to have good matches. They'll have good matches now in AEW, and it's only a matter of time before they're in the ring together. And, all these guys are awesome. The Young Bucks were the Young Bucks here, and they were, going full tilt here. I mean, I'll say this to the end of time. I'm hoping and praying for that one Nick Jackson singles run so we can see it, because I think it would be spectacular to see.
Right. Then we had a Ring of Honor World title match. Cody, he still had brown hair here, but he was a heel. Picks up the win against Minoru Suzuki. This was 13 minutes and 13 minutes. This was 13 minutes. Great match. So awesome to see Cody. Like, he really made a way for himself this time. Like, he really reinvented himself, and he was a staple of Ring of Honor there for a while.
Yeah, he really helped take it to a whole nother level. And, this was, my favorite version of Cody, heel Cody. This would lead to, Cody. And of course, you saw Brandy coming out looking great, leading him to the ring. He had the Ring of Honor ring, which I think was, the predecessor for the Dynamite
Dynamite
ring.
ring. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we would later see Cody with Bernard the Business Bear, which Cody, if you ever need Bernard the Business Bear 2, I'm right here, ready to go. It would be awesome to see this version of Cody in WWE, heel Cody, whether he's starting his own group, whether he's, starting like a new Nightmare Family. I mean, you have Cody, you could have Royce Keys, you could have Ricky Saints, throw in Ethan Page. I mean, what a foursome that would be. It would be something fun. Give him some backup. I mean, let Cody go heel. I wish AEW would have did it. I mean, Cody coming out with the fur and, the arrogance, it would be awesome.
Yeah, this was
And
your favorite Cody.
yeah, and he was a monster here. This is when he was the leader of Suzuki Goon with Zack Sabre Jr. as his protege. I
Mhm.
mean, to get him in Ring of Honor in the US, this would start off a huge run for Suzuki, who was going all over. And the one thing that I always feel we missed out on was when COVID hit and we didn't get that Joey Janela spring break. It was supposed to be Suzuki versus Orange Cassidy. I mean,
Oh man, that would have been awesome.
and this was Orange Cassidy pre AEW. So just figuring it out. And man, the monster that is Minoru Suzuki, the killer that he is against the lazy, lackadaisical Orange Cassidy. I mean, wow. How
Yeah,
awesome would that have been?
that would have been so fun.
But this was an awesome show. I mean, you can obviously see all these guys are involved with WWE or AEW or TNA in some fashion. And a
Yeah.
lot of these guys have either been on top, are on top, you know, and it's just awesome. And it shows you that, hey, not every company has to be on national TV for it to be good. So make sure you support your independence and, check out something that you might not think is for you, because it could lead you down a road and, give you something enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's do our little preview of Death Before Dishonor 2026. So the match, they're gonna have a Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Title match. It's gonna be Dalton Castle and the Outrunners, which is Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd, versus the Lethal Twist, Blake Christian, Jay Lethal, and Lee Johnson. I'm still not sold on the Lethal Twist name. It makes it sound like a dangerous donut or something. Like, weird name.
I mean, well, Blake Christian and Lee Johnson, you know, like the chocolate and vanilla twist, and then you throw in the lethal.
I know it just isn't doing it for me. I don't know.
I expect the lethal twist to pick up the win here. Their performance on the last pre-show at Redemption, I think, really catapulted them, and you've been seeing them more with like the demand on Dynamite. And Blake Christian, I think, is someone, you know, if he just gets that right break and has that right match, and maybe puts on like 10 to 15 pounds of muscle for a little bit of bulk,
Yeah.
I think he could be a major player because he does a lot of special things and former GCW world champion right there.
Yeah. And there's also going to be a Ring of Honor World Television title fight without honor match. Leo Rush versus Action Andretti for that one. I mean, we're kind of into Leo Rush right now. Like, he did a great refresh of himself. It's creepy, it's
Yeah,
weird, everybody loves it.
it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he's over. This is over. I mean, I said it before. I mean, we all thought, what in the hell is this guy doing? But man, it's not entertaining. Imagine if we could have gotten a Leo Rush, a Blackheart Leo Rush interacting with Danhausen. That would be
Yeah.
fun.
Mhm.
That would have been money. But yeah, I expect Leo Rush to continue on and continue gaining that momentum and put this feud with Andretti finally to rest here.
Yep. Then we're looking at a Ring of Honor Women's Pure title match. It is the Battle of Steve's Girlfriends, Deanna Perrazzo versus Steph DeLander. Who's going to win? Which girlfriend are you rooting for, babe?
Oh my
I'm
God.
rooting for Deanna. I love her. She could be my girlfriend.
Barrazo and SDL. I mean, this is like I told you earlier today. I mean, Tony Khan is booking this for me. I mean, this is like choosing which aunt is your favorite aunt? I mean, this is tough here. I mean, I
I like
love the
Deanna the best. You've been a stan though of Deanna for
yeah.
years.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved Diana from the beginning. I think she's awesome. We have that Italian connection, and SDL. We were just talking about him, the Deathmatch King, Matt Cardona. You know, put her, front and center right after Chelsea left, and SDL was awesome. I'm glad she's back in the ring. She
Yeah,
came back from double neck surgery. I expect this to be an awesome match. It would not shock me if SDL picks up the surprise win here. Uh, but if I have to go with my heart, I want to see Deanna be pure champion forever. But if someone's going to beat her, I would be okay if it was SDL.
yeah. Yeah, I love Deanna. I mean, I've seen Steph a few times, but I don't know that I've watched any like matches. I feel like I only see her with Mance Warner, so that's just, you know, and I just like Deanna. So then there's the Ring of Honor Pure title match, Lee Moriarty versus either Shibata or Wheeler Yuta. Is that right? Is a surprise contender?
So it was supposed to be Nigel McGuinness, and the stipulation was to be if Nigel loses, he can never wrestle in Ring of Honor again. But they're doing this wild storyline that Nigel hurt his foot in the Continental Cup and he can barely wrestle, and now he's out of the Ring of Honor match. So who knows if this injury is legit or not. I was fully expecting Nigel to win this match and become pure champion again and, stake his claim as the greatest pure champion ever. But now it's probably going to be Lee Moriarty continuing his reign. It would be fun to see Shibata in this spot, but I'd rather see Moriarty go over on Wheeler Yuta than, make Shibata take another loss. But huge letdown that it's not Nigel. I feel like anytime we get to see Nigel in a ring, it's just a gift. So,
Yeah.
really, really would have loved to have seen that. Would be even funner if this was not Shibata or Yuta and it was someone like, you know, Samoa Joe coming back and getting his claim for the title that he once held. That would be fun, but
Yeah.
we'll we'll see what happens here.
Then we have the Ring of Honor Women's World Title match. Athena is going up against Hazuki, and I'm not an Athena fan, but I am not ready for her title reign to end. Like, she already beat Roman Reigns for the length of time that she's held the title, and I'm just living for like a female champion that's been the champ for forever. You know what I mean? Like, keep it going. I think she should stay.
Yeah, I mean, I expect her to maintain this and win this title. I mean, continue to be champion here. Hazuki's been getting a lot of run in, stardom, and I don't expect Athena to lose this title here.
Yeah.
So her reign will continue, I'd imagine. And the question is, who is going to be the one to end this streak? Could we
Who's
see some?
worthy?
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if we get a return or someone debuting here to challenge Athena. One thing that would make a lot of sense to me is a certain person who hasn't been seen in 3 years, who just recently got cleared. No, not the doctor. That's for another Ring of Honor show that I think she'll be appearing. But I could see a Ruby Soho coming back
Oh,
here.
she did get cleared. I don't want to see her.
Yeah, I mean that's someone who doesn't want to travel, as a
Does
new
he have a
mother.
baby? Yeah, he
Yeah,
has a baby.
yeah. I think it, you know, for close to a year now. I'm not, I don't keep track of,
We
children's
only have
ages.
2 kids we gotta worry about.
Yeah. So, I
And
mean,
they're
that
not
would make
babies.
sense. Yeah, that would make sense as someone coming in and someone with some name, to, build to a future match and to get some eyes on Ring of Honor would be fun. But yeah, something like that would make sense.
And then finally, we have the Ring of Honor World Title match, Bandito, which is the reigning champion, versus Nick Wayne. This match should be pretty good. I mean, they're both incredibly talented. We love Bandito. I mean, I would like to see him continue as the champ, but that's just me. I like Bandito a lot.
Yeah, I like Bandito a lot too, but I think, Nick Wayne has really looked good. Since he lost that TV title, his matches, in AEW and at the Joey show were awesome. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Nick Wayne pulls off the big win here. And this allows Bandito to, effectively be full time AEW, allow Nick Wayne to run Ring of Honor for a little while and, get that fresh blood in there. You know, tonight on Ring of Honor, we're getting Nick Wayne versus Jordan Oliver, which should be an awesome matchup. So excited to check that out on YouTube and on, um, you know, Honor Club. So make sure you check this out. I think this is going to be a really fun show. Ring of Honor shows are always good. It's AEW light, so it's going to go for 3 hours and you're going to get a lot of good wrestling and you'll probably get some people showing up here to make this a little bit funner. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast. Tonight, we traveled through the very different eras of Ring of Honor. We went back to 2003 and revisited the very first Death Before Dishonor, jumped ahead to 2017 for Minoru Suzuki's historic return to the United States, and then we look forward to Philadelphia for the next chapter in this legendary event's history.
That's what makes Ring of Honor so special. The names may change, the presentation may evolve, and the wrestling world may look completely different, but the idea behind Ring of Honor has always remained the same: earn respect, deliver inside the ring, and leave fans with something they'll remember. Now, the big question is whether this weekend's Death Before Dishonor can live up to the history that came before it.
Let us know your favorite Death Before Dishonor match, your biggest prediction for this weekend, and which wrestler you think will steal the show. Make sure you're following the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also find every episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the podcast. And most importantly, thank you for supporting professional wrestling.
Until next time, keep watching wrestling.
Keep arguing about wrestling.
And always remember, death before dishonor.
Hello, my friends. We meet again. It's Wrestling Superstar CPA, and you're listening to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Podcast. Sorry, I'm a little sweaty. It's summer. It's summer, after all. You're listening to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Podcast, the Indie Spotlight. Every Friday, they spotlight an indie wrestler. Maybe it's one that you like. Maybe it's one that you don't like. Maybe it's one that you saw one time, and now they're wearing a different hat. You can find Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Podcast on all podcast platforms, such as Spotify, iTunes, and also YouTube. You're listening to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Podcast. This is CPA telling you, let's go, girls.